Traveling around the country, talking to the radio announcers, the church people and the street people, telling them that God has smiled on me. God has smiled on you if you got breath in your body. If He woke you up this morning and started you on your way. But I want to tell you some stories of people that God smiled on. We know the story of Dr. Martin Luther King, how it started way back in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955, trying just to get dignity, trying to get respect. And he went all the way to the mountaintop. But he didn't forget about the brothers in the valley. He didn't forget about those trapped in the alley. And I hear Brother Martin King saying, God has smiled on me. He's been good to me. Let me tell you, God has smiled on me. It's been so good to me. Then I see as Dr. King went on, another man stepping to the forefront by the name of John F. Kennedy, who rose up and said, let's not stand back. Let's not wait for a handout. Let's wait for a way out. He said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. He said, don't us gravel and don't us moan, because God done smile on us. Let me say it. God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Let me say it. God has smiled on me. One more time. I want to say it real slow. I'll say God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Pick it up. God has smiled on me. I feel it. Then I went on by backstage at the Apollo Theater and I saw a man come out. They call him the King of Soul, James Brown. And James Brown said, Reverend, don't you worry. I started out as a shoe shine boy. I started out as a convict. I started out uneducated. But I learned to sing my song. And I sung it all over the world. I told him it was a man's world. I told him about the big payback. I told him Papa got a brand new bag. And all over the world, they can hear my voice. But Reverend, don't you frown. Don't you bow your head. Tell him what you told me, Brother Brown. I said, now God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I want to scream, y'all. I want to scream, y'all. God has smiled on me. He has set me. Channel 126, The Urban View, where talk empowers and becomes action. I'm coming to you live from our National Action Network corporate headquarters in New York for the next 3 hours. You can join the conversation and be heard nationwide. All you have to do is call us at 1-877-532-5797, 1-877-532-5797, or tweet us at twitter.com, The Rev Al, or you can go to live stream
at National Action Network, and you can send a message on our message board, and I tried to read as many of the messages on the message board as possible because what you have to say is important and significant to me, and some already on the message board. I see Destined Forever saying, as a reminder, this is Stephanie Humphrey channel. Okay. Margaret Franklin saying, good afternoon, Reverend Sharpton. Good afternoon, Margaret. James Thomas is saying, good afternoon, Reverend Sharpton, and happy Tell It Like It Is Tuesday to you. God bless. I like that. Tell it like it is Tuesday. I might adopt that one, James. That's pretty good. All right, lot to talk about, and I really, 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 really want you to weigh in with me on the issues of the day. I was talking to some people on Capitol Hill, and they were telling me, man, that about 4 officers I know of senators, they keep your radio show on because they want to be able to report to the senators, and sometimes the senator come in and listen. What is the pulse of people? How people reacting to stuff, and then and everybody watches your television show. I said, well, you're not flattering me because I know it to be true. I get the for the television show, I get the ratings on Tuesday morning for Saturday and Sunday. And we did very well again this weekend. Thanks to all of you for supporting the show and watching the show, because I really, really work hard to give you the best show we can and the best guests we can. And again, this is about the 5th or 6th week in a row we beat CNN on the ratings at the same time. They compare who's on at 5 at MS now, who's on CNN at the same time. So that's how you know who's ahead in the ratings, and they give you the numbers, and our numbers is as high or higher than anybody on the weekends because of you. And that's how you stay on the air. People talk about, oh, we want so-and-so to say so-and-so and do so-and-so. I deal with all these issues, but if you don't support the shows, you lose them. And I was saying the other day right on this show how many shows we've lost, and some of it was because we didn't support them. We need as many on air as we can. So I thank you for supporting the show, and I'm glad to let you know people are listening right now on Capitol Hill and other places. They want to see this whole thing with shooting the boats in Venezuela. Trump is on his way to Pennsylvania to make a speech. They want to know what's the pulse of the people. Well, this show is a great indication of that. And I think that you should not take yourselves for granted. A lot of us think that we don't matter as much as we do. When you participate in a talk show, they're monitoring that. When you go out and vote, your vote gives them a gauge of what they get away with. When you go to a rally or a march, all of that is making a statement. And I think that it is absolutely outrageous that people think that they don't count. But then again, when I think about that, we were trained to feel that we were inferior, that we do that, and a lot of us still have not shook or shaken that slave complex. We don't matter. And Janet Overall saying on our message board, I've been watching you, Reverend Sharpton, from day one. Well, I appreciate that, Janet. That's why I'm still on, because of people like you. Veronica Brooks is saying hello from San Antonio, Texas. All right. That's very good. I'm glad to know we're on in Texas. Prayer Carrington says, good afternoon, Reverend Sharpton, and live stream. As always, my mom and I thoroughly enjoy both Keeping It Real and Politics Nation. That's what I'm talking about. I like that. Well, a lot to talk about. There are now some Republican senators to which have said publicly that they now want to see the tapes, the videotapes released on the second attack on the boat in Venezuela. There was the attack on the boat, then they waited and the survivors were killed. And they want to see that tape. Even some Republican senators are coming out. That's interesting. Let's talk about that, the importance of that. Well, why is that significant, Rev. Mal? That's down in Venezuela. It's very, once you normalize and legalize that with no trying of facts, no due process, no jury trial, that you can just kill people. Not only does that reduce us all over the world, it sets a precedent that can happen, the world do us. Many of you have children, nieces, nephews in the armed services. Do we want a world where people on suspicion can shoot and kill them? So that's one. Second, the Supreme Court is having a hearing today on campaign finance limits. That's going to be interesting. We see that they've upheld the redrawing of the districts in Texas, which should cost, the Republicans feel it will cost 5 seats. It'll up them 5 seats. It's been balanced out in California because they're going to have seats there. So it's already in a heated showdown for 2026. We also see that a federal judge in New York approved the Justice Department's request to release grand jury materials in the Ghislaine Maxwell case while implementing safeguards to prevent any disclosure of information that could identify or harm victims. Now, the ruling follows a similar order in Florida to release grand jury records from 2005 and 2007. The investigations on Jeffrey Epstein. We'll see what is didactic. We see how real that is. And Democratic governors are positioning themselves as national leaders in the midterms. And we see that that is important, significant, and you're probably beginning to see who is going to be the crowd that ends up running for president, who shows leadership. We also see yesterday Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett announced she's running for the U.S. Senate in Texas, as Allred, who was in the race, Colin Allred, has stepped back and gives her a chance. There's not going to be splitting the black vote. And she has an uphill battle, but she is fiery and running for the Senate. Last thing I want to raise is that Donald Trump, who doesn't believe in giving money to people, they're begging. They want to live off government. Well, he says now he's going to give $12 billion bailout for farmers because of what they lost in the tariff revenue. Now, many of us was opposed to the tariffs. We said it was going to cost us a lot of money. Farmers almost went broke. So now he's going to give the farmers $12 billion, even though the estimate by most economists is that farmers lost about $30 billion. But he's going to try to make this gesture. But that's all right. If Obama or Biden had done it, it's that you're giving away taxpayers' money to people that are irresponsible and don't know how to run their business. But if they do it for these farmers who voted for him, it's all right. And even there, some of the farmers are saying, but that is not going to cover near what I lost. He still won't admit the tariffs was foolish economics. Let's talk about all of this and whatever else is on your mind. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. Or go to the live stream and you can put up a message on our message board at www.nationalactionnetwork.net. All right, let's take a break. I'm coming right back. Coming to the phones. 1-877-532-5797. Sharpton, keeping it real. Be right back. Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. Let's go back to the phone. Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin is. You know, every day, Monday through Friday, I do 3 hours a day on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. I do 1 hour on Sunday mornings with Reverend Al Sharpton. And I'm live on radio and TV with the Saturday Action Rally. 7 days a week, I talk to our people, hear from them, to call in. I'm sick and tired of people talking for people that they don't talk to. So go on www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Listen to my show, call in, express your opinion. You don't have to agree with me. But let's start talking to each other rather than about each other and lecturing at each other. Let's keep it real with Sharpton.
Rev, you know you were right there
From the beginning.
with the stuff that
Yep.
was going on in Brooklyn at that time, at Howard Beach. You were right there.
He had in one of the early movies, he had my name. Then he put me in Malcolm, but I wasn't even old enough to know Malcolm. So we've been through it all.
For those who see Malcolm X, it's 3 hours. But fast forward to the scene yourself,
Yep.
Bobby Seale.
Right. Bobby Seale, Denzel, and me.
Yeah.
Denzel was on the set.
Now let me ask a question.
Yep.
What was your weight on that scene?
I probably about 270. I was bigger then.
Yeah.
Still had the hair,
And
man.
you had the head on.
Yeah, it was.
Denzel, yourself, and Bobby Seale.
Yeah, all in one scene.
And also, there was no cut. So we went like this.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Only Spike could have done that.
It's my brother right here.
My baby.
Brooklyn's in the house.
Yes, sir.
Brooklyn's in the house.
BK. Stop going through your life like you are a co-star or a bit player in your own drama. No, you are the main star. You're the central figure in your life. What you decide is what is the major thrust of your life. And others may contribute, impact, affect, but it's your life that you're central in. So stop trying to lay the weight of what you do or don't do on others. That weight is squarely on your shoulders and in your hand. And if you want to defer and give your life choices to others, that's on you. If they have any sense at all, they will be so busy trying to conduct and properly guide their life, they will not have time to try to major in your life. I would argue that DEI is a result of those that by law and later by enforcement would not deal with diversity, would not deal with including people of color, gender, sexual orientation, as well as disabled. And the conscious effort by government and the private sector to begin to equalize the opportunities of this country was something that makes it more humane and fair for all of us. To DEI, diversify, is not based on the lack of merit. We could not show our merit because we were pompous conservatives that talk about we want a society based on merit. Well then, if it's based on merit, then why did you discriminate based on race and gender? Until they're cut off much of the population and then had merit between white males. That was what they meant, not merit. Let's have real merit, but let's also make up the ground that those of us with merit was not able to compete. Extremely important about the funding, but I also want to add how they're changing what can be taught. You have states outright saying you can't teach Black history and you can't teach certain other histories and the curriculum. You have this administration that is literally taking out exhibits from the Smithsonian. So we have not only an education problem in terms of resources, we have an education problem in terms of curriculum and what people are being taught. So I have one grandchild, 6-year-old. When he gets to high school, it may be just against the law for him to learn about certain parts of American history, which includes Blacks. We want to talk about slavery. We want to talk about the good side of America. Well, what does that mean? That's not history. Everything was not good. And I think that that is the threat that we've got to fight, which is why we've got to fight in the courts and the streets, because they are literally changing the textbooks as we go. As they do that, they change the opportunities, because then the fight against affirmative action is not having access to these institutions and telling these institutions, this whole fight around DEI, which they did, started at Harvard with a Black woman president. Started with them saying you can't teach diversity in an Ivy League school like Harvard. It didn't start in Little Rock at the high school. This fight, this time, was Harvard. And they went from there on. And I think that we've got to have the same resistance. If they could fight in the 50s, that ACPD would have been formed together and deal with the question from Little Rock in terms of desegregation. Then we that are far more educated, far more economically secure personally, have no excuse in the age of what they did in Harvard not to be standing up back in this stuff. We've reduced a lot of our ministry to entertainment. Or who can hoop the loudest, who can run around the pulpit more, or who got the dresses fancier, and don't deal with the ministry. Jesus healed more people than he preached to. Because there is in the healing your message. They followed Jesus because he healed a woman with the issue of blood. They followed Jesus because Jesus saw a blind man. They brought a baby. A lot of us would have dismissed him because he was a broken
Keeping it real.
Now you know he was broken.
Now Sharpton out here back. I like that what he said. Tell it like it is Tuesday. I might adopt that every week. Tell it like it is Tuesday. All right. Let me say by way of announcements, don't forget, watch Politics Nation live at 5 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday. And as I said, many of you have been watching it. The last 6 weeks, we've been getting more of an audience. That's what ratings mean than the other
competing cable stations, and that doesn't just help the popularity of the show or Al Sharpton. It means that they understand there is a market out there for our opinions, our thoughts, and we will watch it. And what they like to say is, well, we'd love to have something on television, but nobody wants it. There's no market for it. And every time you turn on that television with Politics Nation, you're saying, no, there's a market. We want to hear our issues discussed, and we want to see people in power questioned about us in a way that is respectful but firm. I'm not going to get on there and act like I'm, on the corner, but I'm also not going to let you get on there and not answer my question. And I get a lot of the rhythm and the feeling of what people want to know from this daily radio show. People calling from all over the country, all over the world. Rick calls from Germany. So I know what people want to know because I talk to people every day. I keep telling y'all that it's a misnomer to me that people talk for people they never talk to. So let us watch Politics Nation with Al Sharpton live at 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday and Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time on MS Now, formerly known as MSNBC. MS Now, formerly known as MSNBC. I also am encouraging you in the New Jersey, Connecticut, and New York area to meet me or beat me to the Saturday Action Rally at the House of Justice in Harlem every Saturday morning. And I'm there no matter where I go during the week. I'm there Saturday morning. And we lay out what we're doing. We try to energize people. We're getting ready for major move in terms of our move around the area of buying stock and going to shareholders meetings. And we have a board meeting, National Action Network's National Board will be meeting on Thursday to finalize the expenditures for us to buy all this stock. We pinpointed where we want to go. And we're going as shareholders to the meetings and say, how come you canceled DEI? I'm a shareholder. We made more money when we had diversity. We got a real strategy on this, and that's what we talk about Saturday mornings, and we then inspire you with a word. So make sure you that are in the tri-state area come to the rally. You that are not in the tri-state area and can't get there, and many do come from out of town, but you can't get there, you can watch it live on Impact Television, which is the only black-owned national gospel television network, or you can watch it on live stream at nationalactionnetwork.net. All right, let's start going with our callers. Let's go to, let's start with RT in St. Louis. RT?
Good afternoon, Reverend Sharpton. Thanks for taking my call. How's your day going, sir?
Everything's good.
Thank you. Somebody posted an interesting article about the tension between the U.S. and Venezuela, and what they posted was that these speedboats can only travel up to 100 miles on a full tank of gas, and that the closest U.S. city is Miami, Florida, which is 1,500 miles away from Caracas, Venezuela. So I don't know where these speedboats are going to refuel at in the middle of the ocean to make it that extra 1,400 miles that they got to travel. Maybe President Trump can look that up. And the last comment is, yes, sir.
Yeah,
and
no,
the last comment
let me say this before you get to your last comment, is that's a very, very good point. And especially when we're told now that this boat they just shot down and the survivors they shot down, they were not even headed to the United States. They were headed to a vessel that was going, what is this? I don't want to say the wrong country, but it was not going to the United States. But go ahead, your second point.
Yes, sir. And the last comment is, instead of our military shooting these boats out of the water, how about tracking them to their destination That way you can arrest the seller of the drugs, you can arrest the buyer of the drugs, and you have the drugs as evidence. Thanks for taking my call, Reverend Sharp.
Thank you for your call. Trisha's saying on our live stream message board, thank you. I never knew how scared people were to email their elected officials until we asked for receipts. Wow. Now that's something, Trisha. You're right. I mean, if you are afraid to send an email to somebody you vote for, somebody you paying taxes and paying their salary, somebody that has no problem writing you or emailing you for your vote, and you're afraid to email them and say, I voted for you, or I may vote for you, I need you to support the Voting Rights Act, I need you to support whatever with tariffs, whatever it is, you're afraid of that, then you really are admitting that we're living in a totalitarian country, that you're afraid to even speak to or send something to the people you're paying. That's a scary thought there, Trisha, but I'm glad you, I mean, I don't even know how you can live with yourself, but I guess they do. Let's take a break. Be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton. Be right back.
And I think that's important. But I also want to
Some of you forget where you come from and forget how you got there and act like you got there because you were qualified or that you had a good resume. But some of us had to pay a price for your resume to even be read. Some of us had to take nights in jails and licks upside the head or shut out of boardrooms like Byron so you could walk down red carpets and act like you got there by yourself. So I received this award with a special place in my heart and on my shelf because I'm getting it from a freedom fighter who never forgot where he came from and how he got there. Yes, we've come a long way. We've had now a black president and now a black vice president, but we still can get shot down and have to march to get a case in court. We still can get shut out of boardrooms. We're still doubly unemployed in a good economy. So we're gonna have to keep marching. And I thank not only my family, a mother that raised me by herself, but I thank that lady at the end of the march that knows she won't be on TV that night and knows her name will never be in the paper, but she believed in me enough to get at the end of the line and make me look good. Because Dr. King used to say, if you call a march and no one shows up, you just going for a walk. And I want to thank those that marched with me. 32 years ago, here in Los Angeles, we marched. And then many years later, with George Floyd and others, we're still marching. And I'm going to keep marching. I'm going to keep agitating. And I'm going to keep going. Until we don't have to do it anymore. Eddie, known you a long time. Mariah, christen your kids. And I promise you this, the only thing that I really live for is I get up with this dream that every bigot, every racist, everyone in this country that hates will say, damn, he's up again.
It's been a long time coming, but I know
1968, Dr. Martin Luther King was killed in Memphis, Tennessee. And it has been the commitment of National Action Network to always, in the month he was killed, to let them know they killed the dreamer.
I have a dream today.
They can't kill the dreamer.
I'm here because I must be here. Democracy is not there for the pig, and you have to fight for democracy. That's what it is. What Trump will erase, we will replace.
Is the dreamers in many cases have reversed and tried to turn it into a nightmare. We come to Wall Street rather than Washington this year to let them know you can try to turn back the clock, but you can't turn back time. We gonna keep the dream alive on Wall Street. I had a thought this morning that I want to share with you about mentorship. I am able to do a lot of what I do because I had great mentors, but there are correct ways and incorrect ways to mentor people, in my opinion. I was mentored as a boy preacher by Bishop F.D. Washington, one of the great Pentecostal preachers of his time. Then Reverend William Jones, who became my pastor after Bishop Washington died, who was unquestionably in the top 5 black church ministers, theologians. Reverend Jesse Jackson, who I started my activism under his leadership, he and Reverend Jones. And I learned politics directly as a director from Shirley Chisholm. So even though I didn't finish college, I had the most unique education in the world from being exposed to giants. But the one thing I learned is as I grew up, people started coming younger.
Keeping it real, keeping it real. I am your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back 1-877-532-5797, 1-877-532-5797, and let's go right back to the phones. A lot of people calling, a lot of messages. I like it like that. Burn us up. A lot to talk about. You should not be sitting back and taking anything for granted. I used to have friends who say, don't take granted for granted. And I agree with that. I'm looking at Tricia, 1989, is saying Texas
is very apathetic about voting. So please encourage people, in Texas to get registered. Check your voter registration before the deadline and go out and vote. Yeah, they cut up these 5 districts to make them Republican districts, but statewide, the Senate race, no matter what district you in, is what Jasmine Crockett is now entered into, and Alred stepped out, so they don't split the black vote. If you come out in numbers, anything could happen. Let's go to RT in St. Louis, Missouri. RT.
We just talked to RT.
I'm sorry,
Refresh.
RT. I didn't refresh my screen. Let me go to my dear friend, the activist extraordinaire in Chicago, Sister Pam. Pam, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Reverend Sharpton. I just wanted to say that I'm simply just elated about Representative Crockett. And I recall when she said, I'm sorry if you hear background noise, I appreciated when she said that she wouldn't run for Senate unless she felt like she could win and that she had a strategy. So I appreciate that. And if we look at the numbers, since they did just cut out her district, then I guess she's starting with about 700,000 people who should be pretty frustrated and ready to go to work, if I'm calculating that right.
That's the numbers on paper. We just got to get them to work. You right?
Right, exactly. So I'm saying that's a good start. If we, even if she could get 600,000 just actively voting and working, I think that's a good start. And I'm thinking they have a lot of motivation to get out there and change. So certainly I'm gonna make a donation and do everything I can from Chicago to help make that possible, because we need a victory, and I think it is very doable. From your perspective, Reverend Sharpton, would we would need the DNC to, allocate some real resources. And I'm not talking about just, on the surface, some real resources.
Yeah, I think that first part.
Do you think they will?
No, I was getting ready to answer that. I figured you was going to ask that. The first part is we could not challenge the DNC to give resources until she won the Democratic primary. If there is somebody challenging for the nomination, then DNC can't choose between the candidates. The voters would have to say, the Democratic voters have to say in the primary, this is the candidate. I think she can win the primary, but she couldn't ask the DNC to weigh in. But she can ask a lot of these outside expenditure groups. She can ask a lot of the nonpartisan groups that support candidates. She can ask them to help her even through the primary, absolutely.
Okay, well, then I look forward to that, and I'm just going to say, when she wins the primary, I expect the DNC to give the full force
Absolutely.
Of their donors and their workers and staff and whatever is required to win Texas, because it's doable. So I'm excited that we're even just in play, and I think this can be done. The next question, Reverend Sharpton, within the Democratic Party, when we talk about consequential women, I don't think we should leave VP Harris out of that discussion. And I hope the Democratic Party leadership is not trying to diminish her in any way or what she's accomplished. So I just want to make sure we're on the record with that.
No, I think you raise an excellent point, because I remember in my journey, Pam, that we've seen people like George McGovern, like Hillary Clinton, any number, I can go on and on, that ran, didn't make it, and run again. I don't understand these people that act like Kamala Harris, because she lost only by 1.5% in 107 days. Well, let's go on to something else. We didn't do that to anybody else that ran and got that many votes. She got more votes than anybody in history other than Donald Trump. She got more votes than Barack Obama did. So you can't just throw that away. And I wonder how much of that is the misogyny and the racism in a lot of our media people. They're like, okay, fine, been there, that's yesterday's news. No, it's today's problems that she was addressing.
Yes, and everything she said about this administration has come to fruition. Higher prices, he's being bought off by corporate people and dictators. Everything she said has come to pass. And they don't want to give her any credit or acknowledgement for that.
And Democrats are not giving her credit. We ought to be pointing that out exactly what you just said, is that, wait a minute, the stuff y'all are saying now about Trump, that's what Kamala Harris was saying.
And it's coming to pass. So she, for me, is very relevant. And I would like to see her run in 2028, but I know, it takes a toll on your family and all of the other considerations. But I would like to see her run again in 2028. And lastly, Reverend Sharpton, your friend Dwight McKee, and you were here in Chicago. I only met him once. But here, I think the local news didn't give enough acknowledgement. Wasn't he also the campaign, I don't know if chairperson, but he worked on the campaigns of Reverend Jackson Sr., correct? His presidential campaign.
I know he worked in Breadbasket. I knew him because he was youth director of Chicago Breadbasket when I was youth director in New York. And I was about 3 years younger than him. So I was at 13 when they named me youth director. I've been there since I was 12, so he must have been 15, 16. Then he was one of the founding board members of PUSH, and I'm sure he was involved with Reverend Jackson's campaign. But he and I went back 50-some years, literally grew up in the movement together. And Reverend Buster Sawyers, who was there, we literally grew up in the movement. And it's a sad thing to say. I tried not to say it too much because my daughters don't like me here to say it. But none of us thought we'd get this old, because when we were growing up, the Panthers was getting shot, this one and that one.
Yeah.
Reverend Jackson, Reverend Jackson, 12 years older than me, was saying that Medgar Evers, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X all got killed at 39. He never thought he'd make 40. And he said that he was the first one in his generation to go that far. And we thought, well, we'd probably get past 40, but we certainly ain't going to get past 50. And I done went through death threats, stabs, and all that stuff. People don't realize the downside of being a high-profile civil rights activist. And then what hurts more than the knife wounds and all of that is the black folks that say, oh, he just want to be seen. Like I couldn't be seen other ways, or Dwight couldn't be seen other ways. We have enough speaking talent and other things that we could be doing something else. But that's a cross you bear. And Dwight bared it better than anybody I know in my lifetime, and he was my best friend. I said there at the funeral on Friday, and I repeat that the two most difficult eulogies I had to give was for Dwight on last Friday and for my mother 12 years ago. I've done a lot of eulogies. I did James Brown, all three of his funerals I did, and he was like a father to me. I did Michael Jackson's funeral. Did a lot of funerals. But when it's somebody that made you become what you become, it's a lot harder to say goodbye to them.
I certainly understand that. And I believe when Santita Jackson on her shows, I believe she had Dwight McKee as a panelist.
Yes,
and I just
did.
remember him talking about different strategies. So I know that is a loss. And Reverend Sharpton, lastly, that's why I like to elevate civil rights people, known and unknown, because I know you said that it's some of the downfalls. It is dangerous. It is a dangerous thing to fight for freedom for people.
Yep.
And so many of our people, you, Reverend Jackson Sr., and others, have done that and have sacrificed. So I'm always forever grateful. And that's why I always put out the call. Whatever you need us to do, let us know. Because some of us ought to be willing to make some sacrifice. Maybe we won't sacrifice our lives, but if you call a boycott or a protest, we can show up and we can withdraw dollars.
Right.
That is something we can do, and we can be uncomfortable for freedom and for justice.
And we're doing it for ourselves. We're not doing it for any of us. And like I said
Correct.
earlier, Pam, people would always say I had a motive or this one or that one had a motive. Well, I have my own TV show now 14 years and radio 19 years. So what was my motive now? I don't need that to be seen. I'm going to be on TV every week anyway. I don't need it to be on radio. And I'm still marching. In fact, the biggest black-sponsored march this year was the March on Wall Street that we did. So what's the point?
Yeah.
Say you disagree with me, fine. Say whatever tactic you thought we could have done different, fine. But don't act like we had an ulterior motive when we definitely don't have to do it to get attention. But we do it because that's what we do. And I'm going to do it as long as I can.
And we appreciate you. And here is also, if you want to start something, you're not stopping anyone from doing that, Reverend Sharpton.
Not
if
at all.
you got something somebody else wants to put forth and do something, do it.
I
it.
don't break in nobody's meeting trying to stop them. I don't get on the air trying to badmouth them. If somebody want to do it, you want to do it different, do that. Maybe you can show us a better way. I'm open for that. What I'm not open for is unfair criticism and apathy, doing nothing. Thank you, as always. Good to hear your voice, Pam. Let's take a break. Be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton. Be right back. Keeping it real.
Some people report the news. Others interpret it. But there are those who transform it into truth. Ari Melba has redefined journalism with intellect, creativity, and courage. He blends culture and current events, politics and poetry, truth and transparency. And in doing so, he reminds us that storytelling is a sacred work. Ari understands that our narratives shape our nation, and he has used his platform to highlight issues that matter to the people, not just to the powerful. Tonight, we honor him for bridging art and activism, for using his voice to educate, inspire, and empower. Join me, please, in celebrating Ari Melba, recipient of the President's Award of Historic Transformative Leadership.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. How are you guys doing? First of all, Babyface is 67 years old. We might need a fact check on that. What an honor to be up here with Rev and everyone else. When Rev started out, they said, he's just doing this to get on TV. Now he has a TV show. He kept along and they said, well, he's just setting himself up to run for office, be a politician. Now he has the politicians coming here to be accountable to you. We're celebrating his 71st birthday, God bless. I don't think he's planning to run for office in his late 70s or 80s, although people do that nowadays. I don't know if you've heard. So as far as I can tell, maybe he was doing it for the people. Maybe he was doing it for voting rights and human rights and being an advocate for people in communities where when bad things do happen, they don't have a local advocate or a federal advocate, or suddenly it doesn't feel like they have anyone who cares about what's happening to them. So it's funny, in the middle you can't always prove the case, but by this stage in his illustrious contributions to the United States, he's doing it for everyone. So shout out to Rev. I'm really honored to get this award. My grandmother was a refugee. My father's an immigrant. Like a lot of other people that I get to interact with, I'm very aware that my worst days are better than some of their best days. And so I keep that in mind, and I know Rev does and a lot of other people do. This award was called Leadership in the Arts. I'm honored by it. I love the arts. I won't say whether I've ascended to being a leader in the arts, but I will share with you the leaders I learned from. I learned civil rights from Sam Cooke. I learned about colonialism from Bob Marley. I learned about activism from Gil Scott-Heron. He said the revolution will not be televised. We're working on that. Reb and I are working on that. I learned about the media from KRS-One. I learned about politics from Public Enemy. I learned about police brutality from Tupac and about feminism from Lauryn Hill. So when I was growing up, I did okay in school, but I was quickly learning as a teenager there was all of these parts that weren't in the official story, but they were true. So yes, we try to reflect some of that in our reporting. In times like this right now in America, art and free speech are under attack. It's not just the historians, bless them, it's not just the normal newspaper reporters, bless them, it's also the comedians, from Kimmel to D.L. Hughley. It's also the artists. We've seen the crackdowns on people who sing or share their thoughts through other forms of expression. And so, in a moment like this, as we've seen in, unfortunately, other countries around the world, it feels like just telling the truth becomes a radical act. That's a bad sign for the health of your democracy. But the truth can help redeem our democracy. So I'll end with a bar. Is that all right? Should we do one bar? From New York's own Jay-Z, Sean Carter, Hove. He's talking about people that might not be truthful with you, that might not keep it a buck. And he said, they're all actors, looking at themselves in the mirror backwards. Can't even face themselves, don't fear no rappers. They're all weirdos, De Niro's in practice. So don't believe everything your earlobe captures. It's mostly backwards. Unless it happens to be as accurate as me. And everything said in song you happen to see. Then actually believe half of what you see. None of what you hear, even if it's spat by me. So we will keep spitting facts with the humble confidence of Sean Carter on our best day. And you can keep making up your own mind, because we gonna be all right. Thank you. Thank you.
I had a thought this morning that I want to share with you about mentorship. I am able to do a lot of what I do because I had great mentors, but there are correct ways and incorrect ways to mentor people, in my opinion. I was mentored as a boy preacher by Bishop F.D. Washington, one of the great Pentecostal preachers of his time. Then Reverend William Jones, who became my pastor after Bishop Washington died, who was unquestionably in the top 5 black church ministers, theologians. Reverend Jesse Jackson, who I started my activism under his leadership, he and Reverend Jones. And I learned politics directly as a youth director from Shirley Chisholm. So even though I didn't finish college, I had the most unique education in the world from being exposed to giants. But the one thing I learned is as I grew older and people started coming younger than me and wanted me to teach and mentor them, the magic of the mentors I had is they did not want me to be their clone. They wanted me to learn things from them and use my own gifts and talent in my own unique way and let me do things on my own, because they knew that if I flopped in some things, it would teach me for the other things. They'll come and help me once I was down, but they were not going to have me avoid being down. And they were not going to impose themselves on me. Why am I saying that? Because too many mentors want clones. And too many mentees want their mentors to put them on a pedestal. Oh, so-and-so didn't do this for me. Oh, so-and-so didn't open doors for me. If they got to open doors for you, it may mean that they knew you weren't ready to go through those doors. Their job is to prepare you. Your job is to develop your own skills, your own unique ways. And I don't care if it's my daughters, who both have come into their own, or anyone else. I'm not a talent agent.
I did not form National Action Network to give people their step up. I formed it to fight for justice for everybody. If talented people get in, it's my job to invest and give them a platform. It's their job to get on the platform and perform and show their ability. Sitting with me today in the office as I talk about is one of my mentees, Reverend Stephen Marshall. Now, Stephen, you just came around us when you were how old?
11 years old.
11 years old. You just turned 40 and now you're called to the ministry?
Yes, sir.
And what do you do in National Action Network?
I formulate policies, lead in various regions, but most importantly, I senior advise you on all things from social justice strategies, politics, intergovernmental affairs, you name it, community organizing, all of that stuff.
And I could go through scores of others. My daughter started Huddle. They got Huddles now, which is for young people to meet once a week all over the country. I just saw the video from the Las Vegas National Action Network chapter. Now, when you decided to preach, did I ever tell you to become a preacher?
Not one time.
Who called you to preach?
The Lord.
All right. And did I say go to this school or that school?
No, sir.
Did I open this door, that door? Did I tell you be ready when the doors open?
Always be ready and prepared.
And that's what I'm saying. Get you some young people than you that you can help along the way. But don't be their talent agent. Their talent must speak for themselves. And anybody that grumbles with you about so-and-so didn't do something for them, maybe it's because they didn't feel you were ready or that they felt if they did it, you wouldn't do it on your own. But we all don't live forever. I want the next generation to speak of me, of National Action Network, and others. The way I speak of Reverend Jones and Bishop Washington and Shirley Chisholm and Reverend Jackson. But I just don't want young people to feel
Keeping it real. And now, America's #1 civil rights leader, the Reverend Al Sharpton.
Learn from their journey.
Keeping it real. Keeping it real. I am your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. And also go to our live stream and you can post a message and I will try to read as many as I can. Jewel Wow, is that Wow? I want to say it right. Says, good afternoon, Reverend Sharpton, sending some hearts. I love that. The democracy.fund is saying, Brian saying the path runs through young voters, millennials, Gen Z across Texas who are hungry for a real pro-democracy champion. I think you're right. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Cooper in New Jersey. Cooper, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Reverend Al, good afternoon, Reverend Al.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. First off, Rev, you got to share some of that energy. You're everywhere. But I'm calling today because I think the callers should, your listeners should hear this. And in January, signed an executive order to end birthright citizenship.
Right.
And that's the 14th Amendment. And I want people to hear this because we need to see how cruel and dictatorial this current administration is, that they're openly willing to violate someone's civil rights. It's like, you can't make this stuff up.
No, you can't. And I think that it is absolute. You're right to bring it up now because I said in the Saturday rally, that's why people in the tri-state area should come. I laid it out in the Saturday rally historically, and I said some of it on Politics Nation. The 14th Amendment that you referred to, Cooper, came out of the fact that there was a law upheld by the Supreme Court in 1857 on the Dred Scott decision. That's where birthright citizenship started. Dred Scott had been enslaved, moved to a free state, and built a family, built whatever he could as a business in the free state he'd moved to. Came back to the state that he had been a slave, and they arrested him and re-enslaved him. He sued, saying, "No, I'm free. My master let me go. I'm free, and I lived free, and my kids lived free." And they ruled, Supreme Court, that no black had a right that anyone was bound to respect. Dred Scott decision. And it was all the way until after the Civil War when they fought and said the only way to make this constitutional is get the 14th Amendment, that anybody born in the U.S., whether you were born slave or free, that you are a citizen. That came out of Dred Scott. For Trump and them to reverse that is to reverse and go back to the Dred Scott decision. Now, let me give you this piece. The president of the United States at the time of the Dred Scott decision was President Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson was the one that nominated the then Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Roger Taney. Judge Roger Taney was the Chief Justice that came down with the Dred Scott decision. When Donald Trump was elected president in 2016 and moved into the Oval Office, the first picture he hung up and he put back in there now was the president, Andrew Jackson. That's the kind of president he want to be. Jackson owned slaves. Jackson stacked the court with segregationists. He hung it up in his office, in the Oval Office, hanging there now. So you're absolutely right to bring that up, because a lot of us run around thinking this is about the immigrants. No, this started about us.
Exactly, Rev, and that's the first thing, him to put up that picture of Andrew Jackson. That tells you everything of what we, preview of this administration. And I bring that up because, as you know, the Supreme Court will be hearing that case soon to end birthright citizenship, even though I still think it'll be upheld. But it's just something our people need to hear, Rev.
I think our people need to hear it. I'm glad you brought it up. Thank you for your call. And I don't know that they won't. I would have thought, given democracy, they would not have ruled after the lower court had ruled in Texas that it was undemocratic for the lines that were drawn. But they turned around and upheld that. So I don't take anything for granted. That's why I stay out here on the firing line.
Thank you, Rev. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's go back to the phone. Let me go to Demetrius in Cleveland, Ohio. WERE. Demetrius, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
Hey, thank you, Reverend Sharpton. It's good talking to you this Tuesday. Yeah, I just want to bring up, the money Donald Trump want to give to the farmers. You want to take away from the money that comes from the tariffs. Now, I believe, it's important that he lay down the procedures for people to apply for the money. They wouldn't just be given to certain people, who you feel like should get the money. Because everybody's affected by the tariffs. Especially with the Supreme Court ruling that it's okay for Texas to gerrymander their districts. Because now, on certain districts will supply money to the people who they want to, they feel like going to support them. That's why that gerrymandering should have never been endorsed by the Supreme Court, because the districts is not favorable to certain parties or say favorable to Donald Trump. They may not get the money. But I believe it should be made transparent how people can apply for the money, different farmers, so they can have an equal chance for the money. That's if it goes through, because sometimes Donald Trump says things don't follow through with it. But if he does, it should be some type of procedure, that's set up, and Congress should make sure that the money is distributed to all their districts equally, not just to certain districts.
Yeah, and I think you raise a good point, and I'll let you finish your point, because not only should it be distributed equally, here's a president that acts like when blacks or browns or even people of a certain class get some subsidized help, they're beggars. They're living off the government. Now he's going to turn around and give $12 billion to farmers because they voted for him and started complaining. And it's not half of what they need. But that's all right to subsidize his political friend with our taxpayer dollars.
That's true. That's true. Showing favoritism. And also, he's taking money away from other programs. From drug treatment, from transportation, from job training, from education. If they can come up with money, move money around, at will. They can move money around for those programs. That's also important. Transportation, because they cut it back on a lot of transportation services in the cities. On road construction, a lot of the treatment centers, they're on the tight budget now because the money being cut, because of this administration. And all that's essential to people's well-being. That money should be restored. It's just as important as you want to support the farmers, and those farmers, I believe just only those who want to support his administration or the people who are backing him in Congress and Senate. And also concerning he want to charge people to go into the different events on Martin Luther King's birthday and on Juneteenth. To me, all that's doing is just trying to prevent people from knowing their history and know the contribution those individuals made to America. But at the same time, he wanted to make it free for people to come in to celebrate his day, his birthday or whatever.
Free.
He haven't done anything. Yeah, free. And that's an ego tripping, and just to try to place himself above those who contribute to this country and try to say, well, everything that you have is because of what I've done or what my forefathers have done, and try to just eradicate anything what black people achieved or Latinos achieved or any other group of people, trying to just single out as this all is being done by what he said, make America great again, people, And it was great back then for everybody. And I can see right through it, because I can listen to some of the talk shows now. Some of them bring up the topic that America have a certain good group of people, elite people, chosen people. All that's going back to Nazism. That's the same thing Hitler said. So this country have that undergoing trend to try and separate a certain group of people is supposed to be superior to anyone else. That'd be important that people see what there's some people in this country trying to make this country life and what their belief is. It is a Nazism, to a certain extent, of cultism. And even going back to slavery, trying to make the elite people have a right to have more than any others. And going back to even to peasantism, in Russia and Germany and France, when people suffered as well because of the elite took advantage of the working
Absolutely.
people.
And I think that you laid it out very correctly and eloquently, because this is what we're up against. But we must not only realize we're up against it, we must fight it, because I cannot accept anything other than that. I remember there was one of the old songs out of the 60s when I was a kid, saying, before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home and see my Lord and be free. They sing that all the time. Thank you for your call, Demetrius. Let me take a quick break. We'll be right back. More of you on the phones, 1-877-532-5797, 1-877-532-5797. And Cedric Cooper says on our message board, I had to read this one, Cedric. So I'm trying to figure out who in the Bible Trump most resembles, Herod, Pilate, or Pharaoh. That's a deep one there now. That's a deep one. I got to get to you, Cedric. Let's take a break. Be right back.
Democratic presidential candidate, Reverend Al Sharpton.
Thank you. Tonight, I want to address my remarks in two parts. One, I'm honored to address the delegates here. Last Friday, I had the experience in Detroit of hearing President George Bush make a speech. And in the speech, he asked certain questions. I hope he's watching tonight. I would like to answer your questions, Mr. President. To our chairman, our delegates, and all that are assembled, we're honored and glad to be here tonight. I'm glad to be joined by supporters and friends from around the country. I'm glad to be joined by my family, Kathy, Dominique, who will be 18, and Ashley. We are here 282 years after, right here in Boston, we fought to establish the freedoms of America. The first person to die in the Revolutionary War is buried not far from here, a black man from Barbados named Crispus Attucks. 40 years ago, in 1964, Fannie Lou Hamer and the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party stood at the Democratic Convention in Atlantic City, fighting to preserve voting rights for all Americans and all Democrats regardless of race or gender. Hamer's stand inspired Dr. King's March in Selma, which brought about the Voting Rights Act of 1965. 20 years ago, Reverend Jesse Jackson stood at the Democratic National Convention in San Francisco, again appealing to preserve those freedoms. Tonight, we stand with those freedoms at risk and our security as citizens in question. I have come here tonight to say the only choice we have to preserve our freedom at this point in history is to elect John Kerry, the President of the United States. I stood with both John Kerry and John Edwards over 30 occasions in debates during the primary season. I narrated them, I watched them, I observed their deeds, I looked into their eyes. I am convinced that they are men who say what they mean and mean what they say. I am also convinced that at a time when a vicious spirit in the body politic of this country that attempts to undermine America's freedoms, our civil rights, our civil liberties, we must leave this city and go forth and organize this nation for victory for our party and John Kerry and John Edwards in November. But let me quickly say, this is not just about winning an election. It's about preserving the principles on which this very nation was founded. Look at the current view of our nation worldwide as a result of our unilateral foreign policy. We went from unprecedented international support and solidarity on September 12, 2001, to hostility and hatred as we stand here tonight. We can't survive in the world by ourselves. How did we squander this opportunity to unite the world for democracy and to commit to the global fight against hunger and disease? We did it with a go-it-alone foreign policy based on flawed intelligence. We were told that we were going to Iraq because there were weapons of mass destruction. We lost hundreds of soldiers. We spent $200 billion at a time we had record state deficits. And when it became clear that there were no weapons, they changed the premise for the war and said, no, we went because of other reasons. If I told you tonight to let's leave the fleet center, we're in danger. And when you get outside, you ask me, Reverend Al, what is the danger? And I say, it don't matter, we just needed some fresh air. I have misled you, and we were misled. We are also faced with the prospect of, in the next 4 years, that 2 or more Supreme Court justices' seats will become available. This year, we celebrated the anniversary of Brown versus the Board of Education. This court has voted 5-4 on critical issues of women's rights and civil rights. It is frightening to think that the gains of civil and women's rights and those movements in the last century could be reversed if this administration is in the White House in these next 4 years. I suggest to you tonight that if George Bush had selected the court in '54, Clarence Thomas would have never got to law school. This is not about a party. This is about living up to the promise of America. The promise of America says we will guarantee quality education for all children and not spend more money on metal detectors than computers in our schools. The promise of America guarantees health care for all of its citizens and doesn't force seniors to travel to Canada to buy prescription drugs they can't afford here at home. The promise of America provides that those who work in our healthcare system can afford to be hospitalized in the very beds they clean up every day. The promise of America is that government does not seek to regulate your behavior in the bedroom, but to guarantee your right to provide food in the kitchen. The issue of government is not to determine who may sleep together in the bedroom. It's to help those that might not be eating in the kitchen. The promise of America is that we stand for human rights, whether it's fighting against slavery in the Sudan, where right now Joe Madison and others are fasting around what is going on in Sudan. AIDS in Lesotho, or police misconduct in this country. The promise of America is one immigration policy for all who seek to enter our shores. Whether they come from Mexico, Haiti, or Canada, there must be one set of rules for everybody. We cannot welcome those to come and then try and act as though any culture will not be respected or treated inferior. We cannot look at the Latino community and preach one language. No one gave them an English test before they sent them to Iraq to fight for America. The promise of America is that every citizen's vote is counted and protected, and election schemes do not decide the election. It, to me, is a glaring contradiction that we would fight, and rightfully so, to get the right to vote for the people in the capital of Iraq in Baghdad, but still don't give the federal right to vote for the people in the capital of the United States in Washington, D.C. Mr. President, as I close, Mr. President, I heard you say Friday that you had questions for voters, particularly African-American voters. And you asked the question, did the Democratic Party take us for granted? Well, I have raised questions, but let me answer your question. You said the Republican Party was the party of Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. It is true that Mr. Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, after which there was a commitment to give...
Keeping it real, keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back.
We never got to 48.
1-877-532-5797. Let's go to Brother Jacob in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Brother Jacob.
Peace be unto you, Reverend Al, and just keeping it real, your worldwide audience, just letting you know here in Philly, man, ain't no stopping us now. But look, last night we lost to the Los Angeles Chargers, Philadelphia Eagles, so we're going to get over that. It's going to take us a day or so,
yeah,
Reverend Al.
Couple of my friends that Eagle fans were texting me last night. They were a little disappointed, to put it mildly.
Yeah, well, we got to keep hope alive. But look, to what you read from off of your line, I think our president trying to be more like Pharaoh,
Wow.
The all-powerful one. Just anything I say, go. I am the mighty one. Please, give me a break. But anyway, Reverend Al, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said to us that we should judge a man on the content of his character, right?
Right.
That was, the thing that he believed and taught. But what we see in the character of our president is that he don't mean what he say, and sometimes he don't even know what he said. Because just a couple of days ago, he was asked, would you release the tapes of, that second hit of that boat?
Right.
And he said, yes. A couple days later, he reprimands the ABC reporter, said that she had fake news when he just said that a couple of days ago.
Right.
Now, wait a minute.
Right.
Do you think that our president realizes that what he says was received, concurred, and made a matter of record?
Yeah, and taped and videotaped.
Or is it just that he's just that much of a liar? Or the other thing is, do he really have dementia? And the people who say they are his supporters, right? Are y'all concerned about what we all see? His mental state. You remember he was talking about President Biden so bad, right? When he misstepped, he could, and which one of us that younger than that haven't done the same things, Because again.
And I don't know if you lately have seen him, Brother Jacob, going up and down the stairs to Air Force One, going on plane. He holds on to the rail like a 100-year-old man, so I don't know what he's talking about.
And coming down, it's even worse because
right.
he know what time it is, and we know what time it is. But look, his mental state. But, you know, and if, like I said again, Americans, come on, y'all. Let's save our democracy. Because one thing I say, you remember back in the day, they said, run, Jesse, run.
I remember that.
Run, Jasmine, run.
Ha.
Because, let me, you know, people talking about what is Texas and this and that. Don't you know there's way more Republicans, right, in Texas, I believe this from the bottom of my heart, that love this country and what their ancestors died for in World War I and II and all of these wars, what they protected, this freedom of speech, this Constitution, right? And I believe that it's way more them than it is the mega people who drank the Kool-Aid. So again, we just gonna keep working, Rev, and like I said, faith and prayer without works is dead. And you one of our high generals on this battlefield to work not only for your people, but for what's good for everybody on this blue marble. And so I say thank you, and I pray for you. And I don't believe we come this far to not go the rest of the way. What you think, Rev?
I know we didn't, and we can't even act like there's a doubt in our mind that we came this far to turn around now. No, we can't do it. We owe it to those that brought us this far, and we definitely need to go forward and do what we're supposed to do. Thank you for your call. Let me go to Disco Brian in Philadelphia.
Let's take a break.
Wait a minute, take a break. We'll come back to Disco Brian. Keeping it real. Sharpton. Be right back. Come on.
A lot of our ministry to entertainment. Or who can hoop the loudest? Who can run around the pulpit more? Or who got the dresses fancy and don't deal with the ministry? Jesus healed more people than he preached to. Because there is in the healing your message. They followed Jesus because he healed a woman with the issue of blood. They followed Jesus because Jesus saw a blind man named Bartimaeus. A lot of us would have dismissed him because he was a broke, poor, homeless, a blind man. How you know he was broke, Reverend? Because they say he was begging. But he understood what he was doing because he heard that Jesus was passing by. And when Jesus got close enough, he said, Jesus, son of David, come see about me. They kept telling Jesus, let's go, look, we got a schedule, we got people to see. He said it again, Jesus, son of David, come see about me. And when he did it the third time, Jesus stopped and went and healed the blind man. Now, what I get out of that scripture, Bishop Daughtry, is that the blind man told Jesus, if you are who you say you are, you're going to stop and see me. Yes, sir. And if you stop and see me, you will confirm who you are. Yeah. But when we are pastoring and leading in communities with bad health, we cannot be the followers and representatives of Jesus and walk by people that are sick and we not be part of making them well.
So who is Al Sharpton anyway? Who is this 33-year-old preacher without a church?
A number of black New Yorkers as well
He is little more than a pudgy exhibitionist who can be counted on to show up, bullhorn in hand, at every racial incident.
I often quote Mark Twain saying, the two most important moments in life is the moment you are born and the moment you find out why you are born. I had a very troubling conversation the other day that prompted me to do this little video. Young man that I've known a while came to me and he was crushed. I mean, really crushed, because people were criticizing his work. He's in the ministry, but he's also an actor. And he said he couldn't understand why people were jumping all over, criticizing him, trying to find scandalous and derogatory things about him. And I told him, I said, you know, you very young. You don't know the road I've traveled. They call me everything but a child of God.
A blabbermouth, a loudmouth, too flamboyant, an agitator, a racist,
I
a race
had to
baiter.
learn.
Yeah, right.
I was not defined by how others saw me. I was defined by how I saw myself and whether I was being true to myself. Some of you watching this don't like me. And it doesn't matter as long as I know what I'm doing. And I like me for being real. So I'm doing this video to say to you, whoever you are and whatever you do, you may not be in ministry or social justice, none of this stuff, but don't live your life worried about opposition or people that don't like you. You can turn that around. Use me as an example. The same people that called me a scam artist, a con artist, a sellout, or racial hustler and all, I kept going. And the people I respected started respecting and publicly embracing my work.
When Coretta Scott King, the widow of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., had this to say about Al Sharpton.
A leader who has protested injustice with a passionate, unrelenting commitment to nonviolent action in the spirit and tradition of Martin Luther King Jr. And I am talking about your leader, our leader, the Reverend Al Sharpton.
The other thing that hasn't changed is the National Action Network's commitment to fight injustice and inequality here in New York City and across America. And that's not only a testament to Reverend Sharpton, it's a testament to all of you who are here tonight.
First and foremost, to Reverend Sharpton. I saw him when he first came on the scene, and I have marveled at his tenacity, at the development of his intellect, and his devotion to our movement, and much he has contributed to the world we are experiencing. I am honored, and I must say that when I had my debate with Dr. King on the issue of the church and religion, he didn't warn me that after his departure, his space would be filled by another preacher, and that preacher would be Al Sharpton.
All you want in life is people that matter to you to say you did all right. And more important, that you can look in the mirror and say you did all right.
Thank you, Rev. Thanks for that introduction. Look, we've known each other for a long time. I'm grateful not only for your leadership and partnership, but quite frankly, more importantly, for your friendship. And thanks to all of you, members of our nation's most important civil rights organization.
You have been, over all of your years, such an extraordinary leader. You are a voice of truth, a voice of conscience, a voice of practicality around what we must address and what we can do. And I thank you so much for your friendship.
I remember that most of the youth around Al's age, he was about 12, wanted to be like Connie Hawkins, a great basketball player, legend, or Earl the Pearl, or Clyde Frazier. Al wanted to be like Alan Powell, a powerful preacher with a social justice gospel. He was very close to, at that time, to Reverend William Augustus Jones, powerful preacher and social justice advocate, and Reverend Gardner Taylor State right down the street, and Bishop Washington, whose church he came from, and Reverend Sander Ray. He wanted to be like these valiant preachers. He wanted them to have their
Keeping it real,
keeping it social justice dimension. He wanted to be like them,
your host.
one of them.
Reverend Al Sharpton. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. And I see Who Am I on the live stream said, awesome man, Belafonte. Yeah, the commercials that we play from Nan during the breaks give some of the people that have worked with Nan, and Harry Belafonte made a speech at one of our convention dinners and really praised our work. And let me tell you something. You could not get a hat on my head after Harry Belafonte praised us, because he was not just one of the best and most applauded and heralded artists in the 20th century into the 21st century. He was an activist extraordinaire, helped finance Dr. King. So for him to say that for us and about us meant a lot. I see that Nicole, DeMarco, is that what it is? Nicole Adimarco, I think I'm saying it right, said, I just bought 2 more books by Reverend Sharpton, Righteous Troublemaker and Rise Up. I had already read The Stone, The Rejected Stone, inspiring, insightful, and must read. Well, thank you. And let me know how you feel about those 2 books. I've written 5 books. Last one was Righteous Troublemakers. I wanted to write about people that had made a difference that weren't household names, like Claudia Colvin and all. That has been about 3 years ago. I think I might start writing another book come out next year. I'm thinking about writing a 6th book. Let's go to Disco Brian in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Disco Brian.
Hey, Rev. I have never read one of your books, and I want to send a little shame out to once again the white left. All the years I was reading other black public figures who claim the mantle of Dr. King, like the guy who ran for president in 2024, whose name I won't mention. I should have been reading you, Rev. I should have been reading you. And instead, our friends like Amy Goodman at Democracy Now! Sent me in other directions, and I apologize for that, because I've always loved you, but I never thought I'd be talking to you in all my life. So this is a sacred treat. All of us, I don't think most of us who speak to you even deserve to speak to you. Many people who speak to you deserve speaking to you way more than I do, but I think most of your Keeping It Real family deserves your time and your beautiful brain much more than I'd say 90% of the people you work with in the professional media world, but that's just my opinion. And Rev, my deepest condolences for the passing of your beautiful and best friend, Dwight McKee. I'd like to thank Pam in Chicago, Rev, for demanding that Democrats respect MVP Harris. I'd like to remind your audience that it's the Bernie bros, those white leftists and their token friends, who I've been doing all I can to expose for their misogyny and their racism and their alignment with Russia and China and Iran, who spent all their political capital trashing MVP Harris over the entire 4 years of her administration with Joe Biden. And Rev, on Thursday, I shared with your beautiful, brilliant daughter, Dominique, and attorney Austin, my vision for one path to victory for Crockett becoming Texas's next senator, which includes Taylor Swift and Ted Cruz's daughter, Caroline, who apparently opposes MAGA and is a Swiftie herself, who is turning 18 in April, flanking Representative Crockett on stages across Texas next year in what I hope to be massive democracy parties to energize all those millennial and Gen Z voters who are over MAGA and their parents' cult love of that orange demon. So Representative Crockett and Taylor Swift's world and Caroline Cruz, if y'all are listening, I'm doing a Trump here, Rev. Like, remember how he said Russia, if you're listening?
Right.
Please, let's start planning these parties as soon as possible. And Rev, before I go, I wanted to thank you and Brother Jihad from yesterday's exchange. I heard a lot of wisdom in what both of you said about having one standard and not distorting history. And Rev, if I'm honest, I think part of where we're all getting twisted up is that we're fighting over some of the most triggering and misunderstood words in the world, words like Zionism, jihad, and even patriotism.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. They're making them triggers and have nothing to do with the meaning. So if you say something pro-Palestinian, you're a jihadist, and on and on and on. You know, the other thing that I think is important is that you mentioned the 2024 race. I remember that I met with all of the candidates, took them to Sylvia's Restaurant, a famous soul food restaurant here in New York, even though I don't eat that kind of food anymore, and a lot of press and all. And I told the leftists that were running for president, I won't get into names because I'm not trying to do that, but I'm trying to make a point that I think you touched on. And that is, you got a couple of the leftists that ran. They're from New York. And I said, the problem I got with endorsing you is I never saw y'all on marches with us. I saw y'all out there when y'all wanted to do something. But from Howard Beach to the Central Park 5, all the way to George Floyd, I've never saw y'all at any of our marches. So what makes you progressive to me? You from New York. Now, you moved elsewhere now. And you're older than me. So I should have seen you in New York doing things, not after you moved and became a progressive somewhere else. So I got a problem with that. I'm sure you'll do the research.
Thank you, Rev.
I'm sure you'll do the research and elaborate on that. But you got to ask people, if you're from a certain town, were you progressive when it was hard, when you were young? I mean, I've been doing this all my life. Now, I don't expect everybody to start at 12 years old like I did. But at least by the time you was in college, we should have heard that you were doing something with the black community. I mean, it seems to me a legitimate question to ask.
Thank you so much. I'd like to also, maybe just in conclusion there, I'd like to just make mention of the fact that Representative Crockett never went on to any of those shows with those manosphere, those toxic masculine jackasses who ended up endorsing Trump and making him seem cool to their audiences. Representative Crockett never went on to Theo Vaughn or Joe Rogan or any of these other clowns, and she never stood on any stages with septuagenarian politicians from Vermont who aren't even Democrats. She's never done that. Other people have, and I commend her for not kissing rings of people who, let's just say, haven't been that supportive of the Democratic coalition we need to defeat MAGA. I love you, Rev.
I love you. Thank you for your call. And let me read this on the Cedric Cooper says, some years ago in Miami, I heard you preach, Reverend Al, how to get God's attention. And you preach about the blind man got louder, and today we need to get louder. Wow, I did preach that sermon in Miami, Cedric. Thank you for your call. Thank you for remembering that. I'm going to have to preach that again because you're right. I did preach it. Let me go to Sly in Detroit, Michigan. Sly.
Good afternoon, Reverend Al. How's everything going?
Everything's good. Everything's good.
Good. Before I make my point, let me express my condolences to you and the family. You know, it's the loss of your friend.
Thank you.
And I also want to say a name. The late great Otis Redding, who we lost 58 years ago tomorrow.
Oh,
who
really?
was one heck of a libertarian. Yes, December 10th, 1967.
Man, you talking about a great artist. I mean, you know, I would say this, and if we run out of time, I'll hold you over because I need to say this. I traveled, as many of you know, off and on for maybe 25 years with James Brown. And Otis Redding was one of the very few artists he really talked about how much he respected, and it hurt him when he died in a plane crash. And he always, Mr. Brown always said, Reverend, I don't know if that plane really had an accident. He said, I just don't trust it. And Otis was from Macon, Georgia, and Mr. Brown was from Augusta, Georgia, but he started his singing career with the Famous Flames in Macon. So he knew Otis from when Otis got started.
Yes, and he told Otis not to buy that plane.
You know
not to buy that plane.
You know what you're talking about. He sure did. Hold on 1 minute. We're going to take a break. We'll come right back. This man know what he's talking about. Only somebody that really know what they're talking about know James Brown told him. Because James Brown had a jet, and he told him, don't get that little plane. And they weighted it down and killed him and the Barcades. I was a little boy. But when I got older, James Brown would tell me that story. Wow, you bring back memories, Sly. Hold on. We're coming right back to you. Keeping it real. Sharpton. Be right back.
Please receive one of the greatest voices for the urban community. One, amen. Not them yet. This is one of the greatest voices, not many of the greatest voices. We're going to adjust the program quickly at this time. This man has spoken out. He stood on the front line. He has been a man for the people, of the people. Please receive Reverend Al Sharpton.
Thank you, Bishop. To the Franklin family and to all of us gathered, Aretha Franklin was not only an unparalleled artist, she was a civil rights activist and freedom fighter. It is easy to celebrate the gifts that God gives. It is more difficult when someone uses those gifts in ways that enhances humanity. Aretha Franklin was given special gifts, but she used it in a special way. And she would not want us to celebrate her without talking about she stood for something. She never shamed us. She never disgraced us. She never made us make excuses for her. She represented the best in our community, and she fought for our community until the end. I first met Miss Franklin when I was a teenager. I'd become youth director of New York Operation Breadbasket, and she would come to the strategy meetings with Reverend Jackson. And I would hear the stories of how when Dr. Martin Luther King couldn't make payroll, Harry Belafonte and Aretha Franklin went on an 11-city tour to raise money for Martin Luther King. A lot of artists hang up Dr. King's photo, but Aretha went and raised money and gave it and worked free. Her daddy marched with Dr. King, and she never stopped supporting. As the years went by and I developed National Action Network, and she would call my radio show and have me come to her affairs. She called me one day. She said, Reverend Al, I want to send you something. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, what's your home address? And she sent it. About 3 days later, I got a check made out National Action Network signed by Aretha Franklin. I saw about a month later, I said, you know, I was so blown away. I grew up looking up to you that I framed that check. She said, boy, don't you have a copy machine? She said, you don't know how I am with my bank accounts. You better cash that check and But all of her life, she supported the causes. She was a feminist before feminism was popular. She was a civil rights activist when it wasn't popular. She gave us pride, and she gave us a regal bar to reach. And that's why we're all here. We don't all agree on everything, but we agree on Aretha. And she fought for everybody. I remember when we were used to picket, Charles Williams and all of us jumping on the record industry, she said, now y'all leave Clive Davis alone. He's one of the good ones. She loved Clive and said, we got to remember what happened to the Irish and what happened to Jews and what happened to blacks. And that is why we remember her legacy, because she sang a song for all of us. She was the soundtrack of the civil rights movement. If you track where we are, you can follow where Aretha had us. That's why when I look at her and James Brown, whose daughter is here, and others who paid a price, that opened the door, but never forgot where they came from. She was rooted in the black church. She was bathed in the black church. And she took the black church downtown and made folks that didn't know what the Holy Ghost was shout in the middle of a concert. You never saw her perform without her doing gospel, because she never was one to forget where she came from. And that's why we give her this great homegoing. We thank her for what she did with Dr. King. We thank her for what she's done with Reverend Jackson. We thank her for what she's done with all of us. And that is why, you know, the other Sunday on my show, I misspelled respect. And a lot of y'all corrected me. Now I want y'all to help me correct President Trump to teach him what it means. And I say that because when word had went out that Miss Franklin passed, Trump said she used to work for me. No, she used to perform for you. She worked for us. Aretha never took orders from nobody but God. So Aretha, as you get your rest, my mother passed about 6 years ago. President Clinton, my mother and I had a deal. She said, I'll meet you on the other side. You live the way you're supposed to, and I'll see you in heaven. I said, well, Ma, they tell me there is no bodies in heaven, just spirits. How am I going to know you? I know her sons are. How will I know it? She said, I'll tell you, you meet me at the exchange counter. I said, exchange counter? What kind of exchange counter? She said, well, right after you get through the Golden Gates, there's an exchange counter. That's where you hand in your cross to pick up your crown. We watched Aretha bear her cross down here. She had to sing with a broken heart. She had to work when she didn't get paid. She was a black woman in a white man's world. She bared her cross. She fought a good fight. Now it's time to crown the queen. I'll see you at the exchange counter where you can now hand in your cross. Ain't no cancer over there, Aretha. Hand in your cross and pick up your crown. As I take my seat, I've been asked to read this Don't do that. Because I only have 5 minutes and y'all will make me go into something else. Dear friends and family of Aretha, Michelle and I extend our heartfelt sympathies to all of those who gathered in Detroit, and we join you in remembering and celebrating the life of the Queen of Soul. From a young age, Aretha Franklin rocked the world of anyone who had the pleasure of hearing her voice, whether bringing people together through thrilling intersections of genres or advancing important causes through the power of song. Aretha's work reflected the very best of the American story, in all of its hope and heart, its boldness and its unmistakable beauty. In the examples she set both as an artist and a citizen, Aretha embodied those most revered virtues of forgiveness and reconciliation, while the music she made captured some of our deepest human desires, namely affection and respect. And through her voice, her own voice, Aretha lifted those
Keeping it real, keeping it real.
inspiring the vulnerable.
I am your host,
and everyone who may
Reverend Al
have just
Sharpton, and we're back. Let's go back to the phone. I know I told Sly to come back, but let me bring in our co-host every Tuesday that is with us for the last hour of the show, and he is the senior pastor of the First Corinthian Baptist Church in Harlem. He is a member of the National Board of the National Action Network. In fact, we meet this week. The one and only Reverend Dr. Michael A. Walron. How you doing, Reverend?
Pretty good, Reverend Sharpton. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Let me go back
Excellent.
to Sly real quick. Go ahead, Sly.
All right. Yes, sir. And good afternoon to you also, Rev. How are you? Before I make my point, I just had two other quick gems because we were talking about the crash that took the life of Otis Redding, and it was reported that is what stopped Aretha Franklin from flying for quite some time.
Yeah.
Because she took fear of flying.
Yeah, she
And I also
definitely didn't fly a lot. She
another name.
definitely wouldn't fly a lot. I can tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Also
Muhammad
wanted to
Ali
mention another
didn't
name.
like flying. Muhammad Ali didn't like flying.
Yeah, absolutely. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to mention a name because 45 years ago last night, we lost ex-Beatle John Lennon when he was murdered. And I say his name because he, along with the Beatles, brought us another soul legend by the name of Billy Preston.
That's right.
Okay. And Billy Preston was the only person to share writing credits with them. But going to your point, in your opening monologue, your opening statements, you were mentioning about Trump wanting to give this money to the farmers, and you did a comparison. What if President Biden, former President Biden, or former President Obama, what if, and I say that every time Donald Trump does something, I always say, what if Obama, what if Biden? But you're absolutely right. And you don't have to go too far back down memory lane. Let's go back 3 years ago, 2022. Then President Biden wanted to give stimulus money to black farmers whose farmland went into foreclosure during COVID.
That's right.
And that weasel, Stephen Miller, went to Congress telling them not to go for that because that's too much like giving reparations.
That's right.
So here we are again. What you said was profound. You hit the nail right on the head. And like they always say, documentation beats conversation every day of the week. Have a great one.
All right, thank you, Sly. Reverend Dr. Walron, one of the things that I was waiting for you to come on, this whole idea of
shooting and bombing and sinking what you call what is alleged to be a drug boat. And then when two survivors, according to some of the senators that have seen the video, apparently was on like almost a raft just about trying to survive, or in one set may have even signaled trying to save their lives, you shoot and kill them. And the excuse is that we've got to stop the drugs from coming into our country and the fentanyl from coming in, when there's no fentanyl coming out of Venezuela. But that notwithstanding, none of these people that have died, I believe it's 80 in all the raids now, none of them have been prosecuted, given due process, given the right to a defense attorney, given the right to a trial, given the right to a verdict by their peers. None of them. They've been executed on the waters, Caribbean Sea or the Atlantic, summarily convicted and executed by the Trump administration. And at the same time, the very same time, Trump pardons Hernandez, the former head of state, the former president of Honduras, who was convicted in the court with due process, with defense attorneys, in front of a jury of his peers who said he was guilty and sentenced him for drug trafficking to 45 years. And while they are bombing people in Venezuela, he is releasing convicted drug traffickers who brought several hundred tons of cocaine to this country. He pardoned him. The paradoxical behavior just is baffling to some, but is indicative of somebody that's doing things that just seem to be unhinged. But maybe you can help me figure out what are we looking at here?
Well, I don't know if I can help you figure out, because it assaults sensibility to me, but I think it is a case, and we've seen it before with this administration and this president in particular, the ethical inconsistency and the, let's be moral when it's convenient. I think that is what we've seen, because it makes no sense. As you said, we now are, or at least when I say we, I mean how this country is perceived globally because of the actions of this administration. Now we're judge, jury, executioner in these cases. As you said, there's no process, no opportunity to show, there's no even call to show evidence from what I understand, Rev, and yet there are persons who are being murdered. And as you said, the glaring inconsistency, the ethical inconsistency, you feel that you must do this to stop the flow of drugs, but then someone who is responsible for the flow of drugs into this country, the former president of Honduras, you pardon. So that's what I mean by ethical inconsistency and being moral when it's convenient, because that's part of the problem. There's no consistency in the actions of this administration, this president. There's no moral consistency. They are doing things at whims and based on their own inclinations. They're assaulting the rule of law, undermining what should be tenets of democracy, and just human decency is what we're watching, Rev. And it's just very interesting. I'm sure you talked about it yesterday, even with regard to now some of the national parks not being closed or not recognizing the holidays of Dr. King. So this is just unbelievable what we're watching, and seeing someone who is such a maniacal egomaniac and narcissist. And as you know, I hate to say it, we find ourselves pointing to Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she's pointed out how so many Republicans who once laughed at him now cower to him because they don't want to get on his bad side.
Yeah, and when you referred to that, yeah, we did mention it yesterday about the national parks. In fact, I closed my television show Sunday night on it, and where they on certain holidays let you use the national federal parks free, and when the edition come out this year, Martin Luther King Day, you do not are not allowed in federal parks free, and Juneteenth Day you're not allowed in, but you're allowed in on Donald Trump's birthday, which is Flag Day. I mean, you couldn't make this up if you wanted to. Let's go to Deshaun in Washington, D.C. Deshaun?
Yes, hello. I told the screener that Jasmine Crockett is average at best. She's a solid 5. Just a bunch of wigs, makeup, fake lashes. She looks like one of those loving hip hop chicks. She's got as much chance as winning as KD does of winning the chip this year. And I just wish black men could stop being so effete and resist the urge to be led by women. That's what's destroying black America to begin with. If we put black women in power, America will be turned into a gigantic ghetto. Everybody knows it, but nobody has the balls to say it. That's why I love the manosphere.
Let me ask you something. I'm
Truth.
assuming, Deshaun, you're a black man, right?
I'm transracial. I was born black, but I don't identify as black. But what's your point?
Well, was your mother black?
Yes, and I don't give a damn about my mother. I haven't spoken to her in over 10 years. Next.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I hope you talk to her sometime, and whatever happened with you and her, I hope it heals, because you sound like a lot of pain. Thank you for your call. Every time you call, you get on black women, and whatever it is, I hope you get over it, because I don't even want to debate you, because I think it's a little deeper than that. Let's go to Al in Milwaukee. Al, you're keeping it real with Sharpton and Walron. Reverend Walron, you can put your hand on the phone and pray for Deshaun. Pray for me that I don't smack the microphone when he called talking about black women again. I'm trying to get better. Go ahead, Al.
Reverend, I spoke with you about a month ago about this mess in Venezuela. But one thing I overlooked to tell you about is the reason that Trump was doing this, not only to start a war so that he wouldn't have to leave the presidency. The other part of it that I overlooked to tell you about is the oil. Venezuela is one of the countries that produce, they're one of the highest producing oil in the world. And if he gets to dominate that country, he will get control of all of that oil production and what have you. That is what his bottom line is about. So it ain't about the drugs, it ain't about whatever. It's about he's trying to start a war so that the Congress won't let him out of the presidency, and secondly, he's trying to get them more money. And
yeah, well,
more money is if he can get control of producing oil.
Yeah, it has been said that they want to try and unseat Maduro, the president of Venezuela,
right,
so they can put in a government where they can get access to the oil fields. It is interesting with all that's going on, he chooses to attack Venezuela and says he'll go in Nigeria, who is also oil rich. He's very selective about where he wants to go. Hold on a minute, Al. Let me take a break. I'll hold you over. Keeping it real. Sharpton. Warron, be right back.
Knew love like this before, 'cause I never knew love like this before.
Sounds so good. That was beautiful. Thank you, everyone. I am humbled and grateful to be here with you tonight. I love you too. I love you too. It seems like I've known Reverend Al Sharpton all my life. My mom was such a fan of his, and I've seen him through my life in LA at MCA Records. When I was there, he'd come through, you know, and get those people straight about our contracts and talk about that. And I haven't been honored a lot. Maybe this is my second time, and I'm 68 years old. And I've been in this business my entire life. I've never done what you would call a real job. But I am truly honored, and I'm thankful, and I love us. I love my black people. And I fight for us, and I want the women, the black women, to really know their worth. Know that they're queens. That's important to me. That's how my mother raised me. My mother was militant, I guess, when it wasn't trendy, yes. Because when I was a little girl, my mother and father would drive in Brooklyn. I'm from Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, do or die. And when she would see police officers handling black children or a black boy or a girl, she would have my father stop and say, she'd get out of the car and she'd say, "What's going on here? Wait a minute, what you doing?" All the time. So it's natural that I'm that way because I'm so tired of seeing our black men beaten with handcuffs. They have handcuffs on. That's important to me. That's my fight. I want love in this world. We're living in some, I love you, I love you. I never knew love like this before. I can't sing because we just finished doing 3 shows back to back. And I flew in this morning and because Reverend Al wanted me to sing home. There's no way I could sing home, but okay. When I think of home, I think of a place where there's love overflowing. I wish I was home. I wish I was back there with the things I've been knowing. When that makes us tall grass bend into leaning, suddenly the raindrops that fall have a meaning. Sprinkling the sea makes it all clean. But thank you. Thank you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. I love you. I love you with my life.
Stephanie Mills.
And I think that is extremely important about the funding. But I also want to add how they're changing what can be taught. You have states outright saying you can't teach black history and you can't teach certain other histories and the curriculum. You have this administration that is literally taking out exhibits from the Smithsonian. So we have not only an education problem in terms of resources, we have an education problem in terms of curriculum and what people are being taught. So I have one grandchild, 6-year-old. When he gets to high school, it may be just against the law for him to learn about certain parts of American history, which includes blacks. We want to talk about slavery. We want to talk about the good side of America. Well, what does that mean? That's not history. Everything was not good. And I think that that is the threat that we've got to fight, which is why we've got to fight with the courts and the streets, because they're literally changing the textbooks as we go. As they do that, they change the opportunities, because then the fight against affirmative action is not having access to these institutions and telling these institutions, this whole fight around DEI, which they did, started in Harvard with a black woman president. Started with them saying you can't teach diversity in an Ivy League school like Harvard. It didn't start in Little Rock at the high school. This fight, this time, was Harvard. And they went from there on. And I think that we've got to have the same resistance. If they could fight in the 50s, that ACP would have been together and deal with the question from Little Rock in terms of desegregation, then we that are far more educated, far more economically secure personally, have no excuse in the age of what they did in Harvard not to be standing up back in this stuff.
It's been a long
killed in Memphis, Tennessee. And it has been the commitment of National Action Network to always, in the month he was killed, to let them know they killed the dreamer.
Because I have a dream today.
When they can't kill the dreamer.
Keep the dream alive on Wall Street.
Rev, you know, you were right there
from the beginning
with the stuff that was going on in Brooklyn at that time, at Howard Beach. You were right there.
He had in one of the early movies, he had my name. Then he put me in Malcolm, and I wasn't even old enough to know Malcolm. So we've been through it all.
For those who see Malcolm X, it's 3 hours. But fast forward to the scene when you saw Bobby Seale.
Bobby Seale did telling me.
Yeah.
Denzel was on the
Now, let me ask a question. What was your weight on that scene? Yeah.
Still had the hair.
And you had the head on. Denzel, yourself, and Bobby Seale.
All in one scene. Keeping it real. Keeping it real. Love you.
Went like this.
Reverend Al Sharpton, Reverend Dr. Michael A. Walron is our co-host. Reverend Walron, one of the things that I have seen not really discussed in the public spaces and media is that the right wing started back in the day, as we would say, with Jerry Falwell and the moral majority, then on into the Christian right. And there is not even a semblance of trying to deal with biblical or grounded scripture that they are trying to propagate, even though they misquoted it and analyzed it wrong. In that day, they're not even pretending now. They just have totally immunized Trump. Whatever he do is right.
Yeah, I mean, there's no need to pretend because they're more allied with power than they are being consistent theologically or biblically. So yeah, there's no need. They remember. I mean, you know, Rev, and I'm glad you brought up because many people of the younger generation, even millennials and younger, don't really know about Jerry Falwell and the moral majority and what that did. I think even at that time, it was an attempt to grab political power under the guise of kind of this moral authority, this theological integrity, which is just absent now, you know. And even back then, even though we weren't fans of Falwell, there was at least a small kind of attempt to set some standards. I remember,
Right.
you know, many people being critical of the whole. Remember when Jimmy Swaggart had his fall?
Right.
You know, there was a consistent outcry from some conservatives because of what they thought is unethical behavior. But that was very minor. But now, no, it's non-existent because now they want to stay connected to power more than they want to stay connected to God. And I think that's the tragedy in this moment, Rev.
Absolutely right. Let's go to Chief Kamar. Chief Kamar in Chicago. Chief Kamar.
How you doing? Hey, my brother, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
My condolences for your loss. I found out from your daughter you was in Chicago, but I couldn't catch you. But man, she did a wonderful job. You should be so proud of the young lady. She did a good job. I suggest you bring her as a co-host permanently. She did a great job.
I don't know if we could afford her, but she just makes me proud.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things I wanted to point out, and I want to ask you a favor as well, is that, I saw where the Somalis endorsed Donald Trump, and so did many of these, Negroes here endorsed him. He turned on them, and he told them he wanted them out the country and said some very derogatory things about them. Now, Italian Americans are wreaking havoc, with the mafia. Jewish people like Meyer Lansky were involved in all kind of fraud, not to mention Enron, the SNL scandal, the Ponzi schemes, and no American citizen has been talked to that way.
Right. Never called garbage. They were never called garbage.
They never called garbage, exactly. And so when I talked about I got the petition ready for Tariq Nasheed. He's aligned himself with this. And, I gave my number. I've been getting hate calls all weekend long when people listen to your show.
Really?
So I really need to get you on. I need this petition signed because yesterday he referred to Nigerians as monkeys and gorillas, and people think that's okay. Now, Reverend Al, if they would refer to anybody, Jewish people, even us as gorillas and monkeys, we'd be on top of it. So Why is there no compassion for African people? Why we don't stand up? And also, what I want to say is that we know Trump is a major distraction. We could be using your platform. Let's talk about us uniting and loving each other, building up black businesses. And we still got to talk about it, but you can bring the spirit of love because I really believe Donald Trump is trying to get so-called African Americans to delineate from continental Africans and have us hate each other and just,
No,
have us fight
I
each
have
other.
no doubt about it. Get y'all pick up and get Chief's information so I can get somebody
You
else.
got my information. I'll give it to the team.
Okay.
I got
Good.
My number.
All right.
Sign a petition.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to sign a petition, you can sign a petition. You can call our office at 708-631-4123.
Give it to us
Let's
again.
come together, brothers and sisters.
Give number
708-631-4123. To sign a petition to ban Tariq Nasheed from social media for anti-African and Caribbean hate speech. I love you, my brother.
I love you. Thank you for the call. Reverend, when he was speaking, it also reminds me that a lot of the evangelicals, white evangelicals, try and go and have crusades and have built big charities around feeding people in Africa, caring for the infirm, the sick in Africa. And when Trump has attacked Sudan, attacked it were called the countries, some countries in Africa, S-hole countries. And now he's gone after those in Minnesota and said they should not be in the country. They're garbage. I've not heard the white evangelicals open their mouths at all in defending the Africans that they go and proselytize to and make millions of dollars supposedly feeding and taking care of them.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, Reb. I think it's that missionary impulse that was the kind of theological framework and biblical foundation for enslavement, for slavery. I think as long as people are at a distance, they feel they can absolve themselves whatever spins of racism, I guess they could. And I remember this story that Dr. Proctor, Sam Proctor, told. He said when he was in Virginia, President Virginia Union, he had some students there from Africa, and they had experienced, there was a church in Virginia, not too far from the campus, that had given so much money to help build up this village and build a school at this village in Africa. I can't remember which country it was in Africa, but these students were at Virginia Union, and they wanted one day to go to this church. It was one of these big churches, First Baptist something, white church. And Dr. Proctor, told them they shouldn't go because don't confuse that generosity with consistency in their humanity. And sure enough, those students went to that white church, and they could not go in. The same church now that sent money to Africa, to the very village these young men were from, they couldn't come and thank the people because they could send money, but they could not really honor them as being human beings fully. So I'm not surprised by that behavior at all. It's consistent across the board of that missionary impulse that was in many white churches and white evangelicals and white Christians who felt this need to civilize those they thought were not human in the first place.
Wow, that's wow. I've read a lot of Dr. Proctor's books, and I knew him. I got to have several long conversations. I never heard that one. Very interesting. Let's take a break. Be right back. Sharpton, Warren. Be right back. Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. Let's go back to the phone. Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin is. Every day, Monday through Friday, I do 3 hours a day on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. I do 1 hour on Sunday mornings with Reverend Al Sharpton. And I'm live on radio and TV with the Saturday Action Rally. 7 days a week, I talk to our people, hear from them, to call in. I'm sick and tired of people talking for people that they don't talk to. So go on www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Listen to my show, call in, express your opinion. You don't have to agree with me. But let's start talking to each other rather than about each other and lecturing at each other. Let's keep it real with Sharpton. Stop going through your life like you are a co-star or a bit player in your own drama. No, you are the main star. You're the central figure in your life. What you decide is what is the major thrust of your life. And others may contribute, impact, affect, but it's your life that you're central in. So stop trying to lay the weight of what you do or don't do on others. That weight is squarely on your shoulders and in your hand. And if you want to defer and give your life choices to others, that's on you. If they have any sense at all, they will be so busy trying to conduct and properly guide their life, they will not have time to try to major in your life. I would that DEI is a result of those that by law and later by enforcement would not deal with diversity, would not deal with including people of color, gender, sexual orientation, as well as disabled. And the conscious effort by government and the private sector to begin to equalize the opportunities of this country was something that makes it more humane and fair for all of us. To DEI diversify. It's not based on the lack of merit. We could not show our merit because we were extremely pompous conservatives that talk about we want a society based on merit. Well then, if it's based on merit, then why did you discriminate based on race and gender? Until they cut off a bunch of the population and then had merit between white males. That was what they meant, not merit. Let's have real merit, but let's also make up the ground that those of us with merit was not able to compete. I had a thought this morning that I want to share with you about mentorship. I am able to do a lot of what I do because I had great mentors, but there are correct ways and incorrect ways to mentor people, in my opinion. I was mentored as a boy preacher by Bishop F.D. Washington, one of the great Pentecostal preachers of his time. Then Reverend William Jones became my pastor after Bishop Washington died, who was unquestionably in the top 5 black church ministers, theologians. Reverend Jesse Jackson, I started my activism under his leadership, he and Reverend Jones. And I learned politics directly as a youth director from Shirley Chisholm. So even though I didn't finish college, I had the most unique education in the world from being exposed to giants. But the one thing I learned is as I grew older and people started coming younger than me and wanted me to teach and mentor them, the magic of the mentors I had is they did not want me to be their clone. They wanted me to learn things from them and use my own gifts and talents in my own unique way and let me do things on my own, because they knew that if I flopped in some things, it would teach me for the other things. They'll come and help me once I was down, but they were not going to have me avoid being down. And they were not going to impose themselves on me. Why am I saying that? Because too many mentors want clones. And too many mentees want their mentors to put them on a pedestal. Oh, so-and-so didn't do this for me. Oh, so-and-so didn't open doors for me. If they got to open doors for you, it may mean that they knew you weren't ready to go through those doors. Their job is to prepare you. Your job is to develop your own skills.
Keeping it real, keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. Don't forget Politics Nation with Al Sharpton live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on MS Now, formerly known as MSNBC. And I'm already booking people. We had a great lineup both Saturday and Sunday night last weekend. And like I said earlier, the 6th week in a row, we got more viewers than most of the people on the weekend shows, and more than CNN for the last 6 weeks. So you're supporting the show. Keep it up and spread the word. I promise I won't waste your time. And of course, you that are in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area, meet me or beat me
to the Saturday Action Rally at the House of Justice, 145th Street and Lenox Avenue, every Saturday morning. I'll be there this Saturday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the House of Justice, 145th and Lenox in the village of Harlem. You that cannot get to New York, watch it live on Impact Television, the only black-owned gospel network, TV network, and you can also watch it on www.nationalactionnetwork.net on our live stream. Dr. Walron, what's going on at FCBC?
Winter renewal at FCBC, which means something we do in July and August, we do in December, which is our hybrid service. And so first and third Sunday of this month, our in-person service. Second and fourth Sunday of the month are virtual. We close out the year giving everyone some rest and renewal, and then we kick off New Year's Eve service. And so that's what we are. This is our winter renewal time. We started this about 7 years. Well, we started winter renewal years ago, but we started the hybrid during the pandemic. We just kept it. But it's a time to let all the volunteers, everyone, just kind of rest and get ready for the new year ahead.
Now, I think that as people prepare for the new year ahead, what is it that you counsel them to use this time to do? Because one of the things, and I've always held this since I was a youngster, the commercialization of Christmas and commercialization even in some quarters of Kwanzaa is somewhere between angering me and baffling me. What is it that you tell people to do during this period?
Well, the folk here know I'm hypercritical of, it's one thing to be critical of capitalism, but I'm really critical of materialism and our addiction to, in this country, being a patriot is synonymous with being a consumer, I think. And so in many ways, we thrive, our system thrives on consumerism and materialism. And so I remind people that this is not about going in debt to impress people. This season is not about that. Yes, it can be a season when we think about Advent and beginning of new possibilities with God. And it's also a time when we think about how we want to end the year, because the old adage is how you end the year is how you start the year. So I remind people to always stay focused, but don't get lost in this kind of materialistic, driven, consumeristic age that we are really in so many ways. I mean, we even see how the president is making deals to make money. I mean, it's crazy. Everybody's about making money, spending money, and somehow your worth and your value is synonymous with what you consume. And I try to, sway people away from that, Rev.
All right, let's go to John in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. John.
Hey, good afternoon, Rev. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Hey, I just wanted to commend you on everything you do. But one thing I want to tell you about, and I hope you can contact James Brown's family and ask them, are they getting paid for that Michelob commercial that's running on TV? It's been running for over a year now. And as I heard the music to the commercial, I said, I know that song. And then it reminded me that when my older cousin, when I was younger, my older cousin used to play this song, and it starts off with, hey, everybody, let me tell you the news. And they took the lyrics of James Brown out, but they're using his beat and his horns and everything. So just wanted to ask you, could you check with his family?
I definitely check with that. I've not seen the commercial, but I will check with it. That's very interesting.
If you see it, you'll know it's... Yeah, if you see it, you'll know it's James Brown's music.
Mm.
And the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is when Trump announced that he was killing King Day and King Day and Juneteenth Day at the parks. My wife showed me a picture of his awards, and Gloria Gaynor was at his awards, and I'm like, now, how could she get on the stage with him after what he just did?
Yeah, I saw that.
But the thing that did you see the picture? But the thing that caught me about that picture, Rev, now, he was looking at her with such contempt, like I'm using you and you ain't nothing. But if anybody don't believe me, go online and pull up that picture of Trump and Gloria Gaynor and see how he's looking at her. And the last thing I wanted to say is, he gave himself that phony Peace Prize. And this is to all of his supporters in the Republican Party and the Republican voters and the sellout black people. You know, just remember this. He has brought no peace to the Gaza Strip, no peace to Ukraine, no peace to Africa, but he wants to take credit for doing all that. And the reason he's doing that is because President Obama has a permanent space in his brain since President Obama won the Peace Prize. This fool has the economy, the social standing, the political standing, the judicial standing, the media standing, morality, integrity, and 100 other things in total chaos, which is his governing standard, and he wants the Nobel Peace Prize. How foolish and stupid can you be to support somebody like that? And thank you, Reverend L, for taking my call.
All right, thank you for your call. Dr. Walron, this whole obsession with wanting a Nobel Peace Prize and even making FIFA give him a prize and name it a Peace Prize, just fabricating a prize. What does that speak to in his psyche?
Well, it reveals that he lives in an alternative reality, and his reality is driven by a narrative in which he is the hero in every story. I mean, that is a manifestation of deep insecurity, but deep insecurity always gives birth to something we've heard time and time again about him, narcissism. So he lives in an alternative reality shaped by a narrative where he's the hero, and everything he does is monumental. And so that's why he uses this language every time he does something that exemplifies how big he thinks his achievement is. But like many people, when you're great in your own mind, it is a tragedy in and of itself. And I think that's what we're seeing with him. Someone who wreaks havoc on vulnerable people in this country, but then wants to be honored for peace in other places. I mean, you create discord and chaos in your own country, but you want to be honored by people for peace. No, it's inconsistent, but that's the reality he lives in.
And I think that, and what gets me is that there seems to be a almost fear and I don't even understand it among many in the media to just call it out, because this is sick.
Yeah, it is. What you just said is when I sit back and watch, I knew that you would say something, for example, about the national parks thing, but I just wanted to see what would be said. You see, there's some people, Rev, who say, if we make comments about Trump, we making comments every day because he does something every day. Well, you make the comments every day. Don't. That's what they want to do. They want to wear people down, get people disengaged, and not say anything. But you have to speak it. Our people don't have a history of getting fatigued when things get difficult. So if it means standing on morality and what is right to speak against the injustice and the insanity, well, then we have to do that. We have to speak that and be consistent with it, because that's the strategy, to get us so overwhelmed that we disengage, and then he continues to run roughshod over this country, roughshod over the Supreme Court, roughshod over the rule of law. I mean, it's amazing. Someone who runs on being law and order candidate is dismantling law and order. So we have to say that, and the media has to say that consistently.
Now, the fact of the matter is that he has tried to, in a very heavy-handed way, to pick what the media will do by blocking their mergers, trying to force them to decide on which talent they can hire, what editorial support they could give. I mean, we're dealing with someone who hasn't even tried to hide the fact that he's trying to, in many ways, censor media.
Absolutely, because weak leaders don't like criticism. Weak leaders only want adulation and congratulations. They don't want criticism. And he cannot handle criticism. That's clear. And anyone who cannot handle critique then is making a commitment to a lack of growth. But I think we all know he's not committed to growing in any way, shape, or form that has to do with his leadership qualities or even his qualities as a decent human being. So that's what we are seeing played out right before us. But again, as long as he keeps getting a pass, then no one says something. I saw something the other day, Rev. I'm sure you saw it, where one of the reporters in the press room called him a liar, and I'm sure that person is done with.
Yeah.
But we have to do that. That has to be done. They have to call him to the table for what he does, and if it means replace him, give it, so be it. But you can't. That's a stand for justice too. So to be silent in the name of maintaining a position or access, no, what happened to justice in that moment? And sometimes you got to speak that. You know, when Obama was in office, they didn't mind calling him a liar from the floor of Congress. So we have to be just as consistent.
And I think that the two things that bothers him is criticism or to be ignored. Because when I was in Chicago Thursday night preparing for the funeral the next morning, somebody ran over to where I was. The Trumpet went on Truth Social and did a whole number on me and put up an old picture. And they said, I know you're going to respond. I said, well, you know more than that's going to be true. That's what he wants to do. He's in the middle of being attacked, and he would love to get in the back and forth with me as a distraction. And I never responded on social media, and I never said nothing on my television or radio show, and I'm not saying nothing now, because to ignore him is to humiliate him. That's why every 2 or 3 months he goes off on me, because he wants to bait you into an exchange. And to ignore a narcissist is something that they just cannot handle.
Oh, no. Absolutely. I learned a long time ago. I heard someone say that what you say about me is absolutely none of my business.
That's right. What you say about me, none of my. I like that. Well, I certainly say, I did say this at the Saturday rally. How am I going to be insulted by a man with 34 felony convictions and a sexual harassment? I mean, I would have to have low self-esteem to even consider that. Reverend Dr. Michael Walron, thank you for you being with us every Tuesday. Let me thank all of you that called in, listened in, you that called in and couldn't get through, but hung in there anyhow. Remember, whatever you do, wherever you go, however you feel, tell somebody, tell everybody. Reverend Al told you personally, keep it real. Keep it real. Keep it real. I'll talk to you.